So I've already got them
Over here.
started in the chat. They've already done that, what district and
Okay.
what grade they teach. So you can see we've got
Beautiful.
some fourth grade teachers, second grade teachers. We've got
Okay.
middle school teachers. We've got people from Illinois, New Jersey, New York. We've got California. We've got
Did we get
Kentucky.
an Oklahoma? Did we get an Oklahoma?
I haven't seen Oklahoma. South
If you're
Bend's the closest
Oklahoma,
to my house so
get out there
far
and
that
let me
we've
know.
seen.
If we get Michigan, that's okay. We'll let you stay. But folks,
Uh,
thanks for being here for the third session. I hope your first two sessions have been fantastic. This one, well, we'll get to what this one is in a minute. My name is Loyal Frazier. I am entering, this is so painful, my 36th year in a high school classroom. I've been using TCI since my second month as a teacher. Their first year as a company, I was hired a couple of years later to be the first trainer hired for them. They were Northern California. I was Southern, born and raised in Ventura, and been through them with them ever since. Even in my move to Colorado and now my move to Oklahoma, I wanted to put family together. There are 17 of us out there. This is my wife over here. In 2 days, we celebrate our 28th wedding anniversary, which is, as you get to know me, you're going to know how phenomenal she is. I'm in it for life. She's on a year-to-year contract. I asked her to marry me every April 9th. She said yes 28 times in a row. Right after she says, "Oh yeah, it's April 9th." So we're having a good time. These are mostly my grandkids. My kids were not around for this particular picture at Easter time, but we are a ton of adoptions, including my wife, and I absolutely love it. I knew I could teach or do TCI from anywhere, so that's what I'm doing. I think it's helpful for you to know who you have in front of you. So you probably know this by now. Got a question? Put it in the Q&A. Got a comment on something we ask you to put it in the chat, and we'll motor right through these. I was going to have you hit the chat about where you're from, but we had a whole lot of problems getting in this particular time. But it looks like you were doing that anyway, and I love it. So Matt is with me, my lovely assistant. He's an account manager from the state of Michigan, longtime TCI and middle school teacher. So you got a lot of support and help today for what we're going to go ahead and cover. So here we go. If you want, in the chat, and we would actually like to see this. What social studies skills would you like your students to develop throughout the school year? And I'll say like, but I could say need. When I started teaching back before color was invented, there was no such talk about skills. It was all at the high school level content. That's it. It's all that mattered. And we have evolved now to where really, I would say nationally, skills are more important than the content. But content obviously still hasn't been ruled out. And so just love to hear what some of those are. Matt will give a little tabulation and tell us some of the big ones here in a moment. I'll pause for just a second more and then I'll jump in. I hope you're having a great time. I hope that you do what it takes to qualify for that $100 that 3 people out of 800 people get. I think your odds are pretty good. I think, I'm not a math guy, but who knows? So Matt, when you have an answer to that, just go ahead and interrupt. I'm just telling them that our overview is going to be about high quality instruction and mentioning the 6 powerful TCI strategies that we have had since our inception. And then we're going to focus on one of them called the skill builder strategy. And I'll give you a whole bunch of little anecdotal detail about that before we go in. I will do one example if I have time. I will do the other example, but I don't want to rush the first one. There's no sense doing 2 if none of it makes sense to anybody. So you will help drive this with some questions as we go through from Matt that we can answer. I think it's highly important that you ask some of those. So high quality social studies instruction. I'll give the game away. I'll tell you that TCI does this, but will align with your state standards, of course. Will emphasize social studies skills. Not that other skills aren't important, but we're a social studies class. Will include multiple perspective and lots of different sources, primary sources, secondary sources, etc. Has to be well organized, has to be easy to use. And if you've used us at all, I hope you would agree that we're very simple to use. That there is scaffolding for the support of learning, which, in spite of what students and parents would say, learning is still his goal number one, not the grade. And if you want to put an amen in the chat because you think that most people think it's the grade over learning, then I will agree with you on that. And we not only do we need summative assessments, and I'm mostly talking to high school teachers here, but formative assessments are really important, and your curricula should offer both of those. Matt, do we have any skills that people are jumping out saying are kind of important?
Analytical skills, critical thinking, map reading, reading comprehension, collaborating, critical thinking.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we'll just put a check mark and say yes to all of those that we're covering them. I don't know that I'll cover every single one of those today in the lesson or lessons I have chosen. In the top right-hand corner, you're going to see a teaching strategies toolkit. And in that, it will go over our 6 strategies in depth. So if you've yet to get a hold of that, I will tell you that's gold. And it will also go over these 5 I like the phrase well-established theories. In the very, very beginning, TCI focused on spiral curriculum, cooperative interaction, and multimodal learning. And very shortly thereafter is when understanding by design and non-linguistic representation exploded. And if you are familiar with those, you will see them all in our lessons all over the place. I'm not going to take the time to go into depth on those because that would just eat up too much of our time. But suffice to say, if you want to know more about them, get into that toolkit and we cover them. That's really good for you to be able to defend what you do in the classroom to any other teacher, administrator, or whomever. But it's also good to know what you're doing is backed up by well-established theory. The 6 strategies are visual discovery, experiential exercise, response group, writing for understanding, and problem solving group work. And this social studies skill builder is the one we are going to focus on, but the toolkit will help you with others. And you may have even gone to another one of these already today. But the skill builder, social studies skill builder, I'm going to tell you why I love this one more than my 2 favorites are this one and response group. But the skill builder is the easiest one to run. So if you are new to TCI, if your first lesson's a skill builder, that's going to put your mind at ease. They are the most easy to take a lesson you may have already done that you like and adapt it to that strategy of the skill builder. And the whole deal is it builds skills while simultaneously teaching content. So therefore, it becomes a large time saver for us, especially in an era where we have to cover skills much more than we used to when it was even invented. So that's what we're going to dive into for the rest of our time together. There's that teaching toolkit if you missed it the first time through. And so here's what makes up a social studies skill builder. This is in the toolkit, but if you're a picture taker or a note taker, go ahead. We have to have primary and secondary sources for this one because the kids have to have something that they're going to draw information from. And that's what those 2 students are doing there. I think that's a map that they're pulling something off of in that particular visual there. The students have to use multiple modalities, meaning it can't just be reading a paragraph for something. They have to be able to use other things. You may notice there's 2 students there. For us, this is a paired activity, and we would like it to always be a paired activity if we can get it that way, so that we increase the responsibility that each student has. The skill will be taught through modeling, and then the students will be guided through to practice that skill multiple times if it is possible to give immediate feedback. So students don't do the skill wrong 8 times in a row before they figure out their mistake, then that's fantastic. There are ideas on how to make that happen. And if that is a question you have later on, Matt can answer that in the question and answer. We should debrief the activity, which is actually very good for many of our strategies. And if we can find a way to connect what they did to their lives, that's the huge bonus that social studies has that maybe some of the other classes, content areas struggle with, but we can definitely connect to kids a whole bunch. Okay, so that's the 5 things you should see in a skill builder. So as we jump in now, what we're going to do is go into a high school government example, and that's going to take us where that takes us. So it doesn't really matter if you teach government. And Juan, I'm going to tell you to go ahead and put it in the chat or the Q&A, probably the Q&A because it looks like you have a question. That's where that needs to go for us. And then we'll debrief if we want. If we have time to go to the middle school one, we will. So this particular one in Gov, which half the nation teaches senior year, half the nation teaches freshman year. To what extent do the media influence your political views? That is the essential question that students should be able to interact with at the end of the lesson. The activity is that students are going to work in pairs, could be threes, kind of just depends on the number of kids you have, to be honest with you. They're going to analyze, which was one of the things that you said was a skill you wanted to work on, and identify persuasive techniques used by candidates running for president. This is not only important in an election year, but there is an election every other year. But it's important the kids know this before they go and become a voter, which was the point of the lesson. So in a moment, I think I'm going to go live. I haven't decided if I really want to do that yet, but I'll decide in a minute. But there are 7 different persuasive techniques that are used by people running for president. I suppose you could make an argument for more, but we certainly didn't want to come up with 30 things that don't have a lot of differences for kids. If you want to take a picture of this, you can access the textbook. I'm going to click on it and show it to you in just a second as well if you want me to. But name calling, transfer, plain folks, bandwagon, testimonial, glittering generalities, that's a fun phrase, and card stacking. So first thing kids have to do is have a basic understanding of these, but understand they're going to become experts on these as they go through the lesson. Because every scenario that they are handed, they're going to come back to this list and look at it and see which one or ones is that scenario using. So I don't need to spend 40 minutes having the kids go over these. But if I want to, I will access the text right here for those of you that have not done that or can't see it very well. And so in the text, it has explanations of each of those. So you can go through the text. You can turn on the main idea if they're in the digital text and just have that open for them with the highlighted in blue so they can see it. But the expectation is they're not an expert yet in it, but the lesson is going to make them an expert in it. But that's where it is if you need it to be there, okay? Let's go to the next one. So we have an advertisement here for Adlai Stevenson, who ran for president twice and lost both times. And what persuasive techniques are used in ads? So if I was with my students and I had them have the text, they're in a partner, they can use that text to go through here and go and do what they want him to do. So is he calling somebody names? Probably not. Is it this? Is it that? And kids can pick an answer for this through the lesson, through their digital security or their digital platform, and be able to see if they got this right. Now, notice it says techniques. That's the trick with this. There could be, and most times are, more than one that are being used here. So to be fair, if we're talking about learning, the point is not necessarily that they get them all right each time. The point is that they're able to recognize these as time goes by. And so in their analyzing and they're looking at these different techniques, they're going to be able to apply that later on when we get some that they don't have necessarily the textbook in front of them. So you might recognize a couple other guys down here. He's trying to connect himself with those, etc. Okay. So I don't care what the answers are for you. I'm not teaching you persuasive techniques. I'm trying to make sure you understand um, the social studies skill builder. So now, if I back up real quick here and I go, okay, what were those things again that we're trying to do here? We're looking at primary and secondary resources. We're ensuring it has multiple modalities, and you're going to see more as we go through. I can take the first one and model it, and then I'm going to guide them. It's this immediate feedback that might be tricky. I'll speak on that in a second, and the debrief doesn't come till the end. So if I have this set up and I'm using this in a way that they can give the answer here, their immediate feedback will be when they submit it and it tells them they were right or tells them they were not right. And you have the ability to let them go back and do it again, just like you would if it was in person and they brought it up to you for you to do a quick check on it. I find, and I'll say this now because this can be time consuming, especially in large classes. If I'm having my kids do it with pen and pencil and they have to bring it up to me, I really only have to have them show me once because all I care about is that they're doing this in the correct way or correct format, not worried that they get every single one right every single time. You can be small classes. I do more of that. I don't even know what a small class is anymore. I don't know how you guys are, but my classes are bursting. Every class I have is more than 30 kids. And so they're huge. I don't know about this year, but that was last year. So here is the part where I can now I modeled that one. And now I'm going to let you practice and see some of the poster ones that they have. You can snap a pic of this and see them on your own. And I can open it up here and will after I give you a chance to snap a picture. I'm going to give you a couple minutes to just look at a bunch of these, whether you look at it at this screen or whether you look at it one at a time, which I think this is going to pop open for me. Yeah. And so I could turn the page and see more of them if I want to. Sweet. So I'm going to pause for a minute and let you play with those. Feel free to use the chat and the Q&A. Sweet. Should you have a question, feel free to ask Matt on that. But we're going to move forward. And so that was just your practice. Now you got to see some of it. So the question is, do persuasive techniques also apply to video media? And the answer is a resounding yes. We're going to try one of these. There's so many people on and so big. I hope this will work. But there's one or two of these that are really fascinating, and I forgot the order. But here's one. Let's see if it works.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 6, 6, 8, 9, 9. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. These are the stakes. To make a world in which all of God's children can live. are to go into the dark. We must either love each other or we must die.
Vote for President Johnson on November 3rd. The stakes are too high for you to stay home.
Now, I don't know if you've seen that before, but it is one of the single most famous television ads. It actually got a lot of pushback. It was pulled, but then all the news stations kept playing it uh, because it was so compelling, and so it got a lot of free airtime that way. Um, but it's just called Daisy is what it gets called. I don't know how many of you caught the math thing. I'm kind of a math guy. That bugs me, but that's okay. And so now students would go through and pick the same thing. You could do the same things in the video clips as you can in the other clips. Okay. And so this particular skill builder is going to go through both video and print. And I will say this to you now, in case I forget to say this later. The tendency for teachers who have never done a skill builder before is to say, well, I've got 12 things for kids to do, and they have to do all 12. And I will say, no, if you're just doing a fact-based classroom, then doing all 12 may matter. But if you're trying to learn these skills and learn basic understanding, then doing all 12 would not matter. You could tell them that they have to do 8 of them, and everybody's got to do this one, this Daisy one right here, because you want everybody to see that one. And then you could put if on an assessment, you could put one on there that they have not even seen, and that could be your assessment, and you would truly be able to see, do they know the difference between all of these? And so do not feel like they all have to be covered every single time. No, 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 I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. There we go. Okay, there we go. There's another video. I'm not gonna play that one all the way through. It's incredibly boring, first of all. So there we go. So public opinion and the media is another important aspect of this. And I think I want to show you the other lesson here in a minute. So let me see. I forgot how long this one is. It's less than a minute. Starts in the middle. Yeah. I'm going to struggle with that, and I'm going to skip it. So the skill builder tips. So the important thing for you to take out of this is we formed a small group, pairs. That's incredibly important, so everyone stays involved. You get a group that's too big, somebody's going to check out. And so we advocate 2 if you can do 2. But if you have an odd number, which of course you will have an odd number, 3 is better than 1 for this. But 2 as much as you can. If you were in my culture building one, you saw a way to split kids into pairs. If you've taught for a while, you probably have your own ways of doing it. That works just fine. Groups start with different skill challenges. So we're going to challenge their skills, and we're going to build those skills to make them better at that. If you can, and you have decided that you want to give the immediate feedback, having some sort of a stamp, doesn't matter what it is, it could have your name on it, it could be a smiley face, I mean, who cares? To just stamp, they did it the right way. Then when you collect these, whether that's a notebook or single sheets of paper or whatever it may be, you can very quickly go through and give a grade for it. Grading can take up too much time, and we certainly don't want to be a part of that. If you're going to have that feedback given to you, have the kids alternate so that one student doesn't do all of the talking, that therefore the other student doesn't get the benefit of having to verbalize what the pair has decided. They still have the input from the partner. There's some safety in that, but we want all kids to be able to be the person who can give feedback. And so if you can have sort of a key there, or you have an aid, or you have something else to help you grade it, that's great. The traffic jam is what we want to avoid, and I've had that in my classroom. What do you got?
Yeah, there's a question in the Q and chat I thought it'd be better to answer live for you. Well, what are some
Good.
good ways to split students up? Some students, obviously more quote antisocial than others, and it takes forever to talk to their partner. So is this where you might do An icebreaker?
So I'll answer that in two quick ways. One, the thing about TCI that's so important is building some culture in the beginning to get kids to be able to do some things that maybe they're not used to. But I want to give kids a safe place to get outside their skill set. So I don't want to make pairs every time. So in order to do this, I want to make an icebreaker earlier in the year that's going to have kids go out and make their own pairs. So when you get the QR code, if we haven't already given it out, it's at the end, that you can get documents that were given in any session. My one on culture building has 3 icebreakers in it that have kids be able to pair up: a clock, a geography one, and a famous places one. Kids just go around and they self-choose some people that sometime during the semester they would like to be partners with. I know there's some elementary teachers that use a days of the week, and they use the 5 days. And so if it's a Tuesday and you need a partner, it's your Tuesday partner. And they change that up every once in a while. You have to save your time, but it's a very real thing that you brought up, that students are going to feel, some of them are going to feel shy, for lack of a better word. But we want to help get them over that. We don't want kids to graduate from high school and not be able to talk to anybody. So whatever safe way, and if you've got a student that's only got 2 or 3 people that they feel like they can talk to, maybe for a while it's just those 2 or 3 people that become their partner. And I have done that before to try and get kids, but never with that to be the end. I want to push it a little further if I can. I hope that answers the question. If it doesn't, pop a little more in there, and I'd love to help clarify that a little bit more. So there's that. I highlighted that. Don't feel obligated to complete everything. Pick a number you're comfortable with as a teacher. Have them get there, and then if they do more and a grade thing helps, they could get a little bonus. That's fine. Our favorite number in skill builders seemingly is 8 things for them to go through. And my favorite thing to do is go, you got to have 6. More is better. You got to do A and G or whatever. And if I do assess factually at all in a quiz, I'm going to pull from A and I'm going to pull from G, because I know every student should have done that. But by the way, if kids are absent on a skill builder like this is pretty simple to get them to be able to do it at home if I want them to. I could put these documents, on Google Drive or wherever you may house things. And then I can make, if I'm using TCI, I can shorten a little slide presentation, which is editable, and just put directions on it and maybe the modeling one and put it in there, and they can do that at home. And I didn't necessarily lose any time, because I know post-COVID, almost nobody's ever absent, he said sarcastically, but that it happens a heck of a lot more than we wanted to. But we don't want to leave the kids behind. So with a skill builder, it's pretty simple to help them do that. And remember, this is the most often created TCI strategy throughout all of our units. And I think I have one more there. Yeah. And as a debrief, we can end with some activity. This one's called the stock market activity. This is kind of loud. I'll give you the quiet option in a second. You give kids the opportunity to walk around the room, and they can represent one of these 8. They can even take the placard with them if it's a placard-based thing. And they go around and they're yelling out, name calling, name calling, name calling, name calling. And somebody comes up to them and says, I need that one. And they explain it to the student. The student gets down the data and moves along. And so any that they didn't get, they get a few minutes to be able to connect and get some more. So especially those kids that maybe didn't get 6 done, they could get up to 6. Maybe they get all 8. The quiet version is called silent auction, and they have to go around with maybe a note in front of them or something that will say to people, just look at it, they get together and they speak in a much more quiet voice rather than the yelling of the stock market. there are other ways to do this, but the important point is a way to debrief this so kids don't miss the point. At the end of this particular lesson, they will have analyzed, they will have had to come up with some ideas on which things are being used and how many, and they should have a basic understanding of the techniques that are used so that if I want to try to assess them and I put up a poster or I put up a little video clip of the most recent election, they would be able to identify the things that are there that are being used in that. And now they're going to be more savvy when it comes time for them to be able to vote. And to be honest with you, more savvy when they go in the grocery store or watch some marketing scheme, et cetera, because they use a lot of the same things. So that is that particular skill builder. Now I have some time. Let me pause and just because Matt, I saw something popped into a Q&A. Before I show the one on geography, is there a question?
Well, how about this one? You can answer this one as your experience from a high school teacher.
Okay.
How can I build a strong classroom culture when my students are frequently absent, coming and going? I have my go-to strategies, but I'd love to explore more ideas. So I think, Loyal, if you could just address more of like you're doing these things, but there's a frequent absences for students.
Yeah. And first of all, I feel your pain because I have similar situation. And I'm going to guess a large portion of our country also has the same situation. So the first thing I'm going to say is it's absolutely impossible to save everybody in that particular scenario. I will tell you what TCI is doing to try to help that. So your high school, and I'm not a place where I can show that right now, but we have these things called video activities. The middle school teachers, if they want to chime in the chat, they can, because we've completed one for every lesson in every one of our middle school curriculum units and programs. In high school, we're currently in process, and every program has some. They are fantastic for kids who are absent because they cover the same standards, faster period of time, and they're student driven. So that is a win. So is a win like this for a skill builder because I can put that out there for them to be absent. Now, does that solve your culture problem? No. And what I'm about to say may not solve it completely either. But the last session that I did was on culture building. And when you get access to all the videos, if you think it helps you to watch that one, please do. But I spend 5 days doing nothing but building my culture, which is essentially a sales pitch on my class. Because when kids miss a class, just one, I don't want it to be mine. I want them to miss math where it belongs. So I want them with me. And that will work for some kids. It's not going to work for all of them. I get the pain. And I don't know if anything I've said helps, but if your school doesn't have a way to make kids come to school, that's going to be very tough for you. And I would make use of the video activities. And here's another thing that you can make use of that's TCI related. There's games inside the program called the games library, and there's one called a review game, and you can make the kids play that for a score. It does cover everything that's in the unit with 20 or 21 questions. It's not a lesson per se, but it is something that they can do to be able to make up for the fact that they're not in class. Yeah, Matt.
Would you use the stock market or silent auction as a tool to help with traffic jams?
So I very much could, and this is the way that I would try and spin that. I'm going to have a couple of pairs who have gone further along by the time I get a traffic jam. And if they've already done 4 and most of the other people are on 2, I can take them and throw them over into a corner of the room and tell people, hey, they did that one. Let them go grade it for you. And I have no problem doing things like that. I am not huge on grades. I honestly think grades are the death of learning, if you want my honest opinion about it. Well, it's especially at the high school level, it seems we care more about grades than we do what they're supposed to represent. So for something like this, because it's more of a formative assessment than it is summative, I'm okay with students playing a part in that. So I think that's a brilliant idea that you have. I could even briefly make that group of four uh, another grader like me, so they can peel off a piece of that. They're not doing silent auction and they're not doing stock market. They're just giving feedback and giving them a stamp, just like I am. And again, I have no problem doing that. Some people might, then don't do it. But that would fix your log jam really quickly. And once it's fixed, they can go back and do another one, and you're in really good shape. What you'll find for something like the lesson we just did, they're going to get a poster and they're going to pour through all 7 of those techniques. And while they pour through it, they're learning a little bit more about each technique each time. By the time they get to their 5th or 6th one, they kind of know them. And that one of them's going to say to the other, hey, do you think that's name calling? Look, he called him a blah, blah, whatever. And then they're going to start to get it. And that's what you want. They're building the skill, they're learning the content, and they're going to be able to use this. If they don't remember anything and they can't use the skill later, it's as if they didn't do the lesson at all. So we want to intentionally get them to that point. So I hope that answered that question. I will backtrack to that culture thing again. Building the culture in the beginning to have a classroom that takes some risks. It's a little bit risky for kids to get up and move around, and some teachers are not super comfortable with that. So maybe you don't put the things on the wall. Maybe one kid comes up and grabs one off a table, which you've got in piles, and go back and they sit in their desks next to each other and do it. That's okay. Whatever's going to fit your culture, because the culture in my room is not going to be the same as the culture in your room, and that's okay. What's that next question, Matt? Do I need that one? I don't care if I get to the
Well,
geography
somebody
one. This is
somebody
good.
put in the chat, try to use your questions for the Q&A if you possibly can, but somebody did put in the chat, where are the activities located? Is there a way, I mean, I know that was like the entire first session, I think, wasn't it? The whole
Yeah,
first
but
session
I will go.
this morning, but if you could just really quick open a tab and go
Yeah,
to
I
a
can.
program, just go to one of
That's
your
not the tab
programs
I
real
want.
quick.
That's not the tab I want. Okay. Yeah, let me hold on. I got to move something around. I will be glad to do that.
Just as a quick reminder.
Yeah, I didn't have one
Great.
open for that. So yeah, I have to sign in, really? Okay. So I will pick the government one that I was on, pop in there. So here is your lesson overview. And when I go, I could pick whatever lesson I want to pick. I don't even know what lesson number I was on, so I'm just going to pick a different one. Doesn't matter. And so now as I scroll down, here is my classroom activity slide presentation. Whoops. And in that is embedded the activity. And you can see activity. This particular lesson has 3 different levels of the activity. Don't be scared by that number of minutes. You don't have to do that number of minutes. Okay. So that's how you find them. And there's one for every lesson at least. And sometimes there is more. Okay. Sweet. So I hope I got that one. Okay.
Thanks, Loyal.
All right. So we're good now. All right. So this will be a little show and tell here, but I will tell you there are more skill builders than anything else. It says what it is in a little explanation in that little orange box. Most of you did a navigation thing at some point, the little orange
Hey, Loyal,
box. And
we're having a hard time seeing your screen. It says loading. Are
it
you?
is, well, it says loading for me too, which
Oh,
is
okay. Sorry. My bad.
not good. I'll get there. And if I don't get there, I'll find it. I'll just do it this other way. And I'm now tired of waiting. So I'll just do it this way for now. We'll just deal with that. In that little orange box, it'll tell you in this social studies skill builder, and it'll tell you the strategy that it is. And you'll see that more than anybody else. That doesn't work very well in K5. It was designed for middle school, high school, but I know there's a couple of you in there. We're working on that because they exist. We just didn't put those names in them in the beginning, and we're going to do that now. So for this particular one, physical and human geography of Canada and the United States, This is both a high school lesson and a middle school lesson. For those of you that may teach geography in one of those places. And physical geography by itself has to be one of the more rote, boring things that students have to deal with. I took a college class in it and it about killed me. So we have tried to spice that up, and our geography has human geography in it. Lots of skill builders. This thing is actually called a geographic challenge, I think is what we call it. And students watch some videos, analyze thematic maps, practice their map skills, and at the end, they're going to get a latitude, longitude, 3 coordinates, a picture, and they have to take all that they've found out to be true and decide which of those 3 places is shown by that picture. It is phenomenal. It's 3 class days, and the skill builder is them working with a partner, watching the video, looking at these maps, and answering questions about them in a way that grows from stage to stage. It's phenomenal. And if you do teach geography or you need some geography in one of your history classes, these things, that's the first thing in every unit in the geography class. So I love that, but it follows the same pattern. Your class will always look the same when you do a skill builder, paired in whatever setup you want them to be in the classroom, either going to a table or going up on a wall or watching a video on their screen to practice a skill, to gather data, to come to some sort of a conclusion. If you are new to TCI, a little nervous about things, skill builder is the way to go. It's the least risky strategy of the 6, and it will give you some confidence to try another one and another one and another one. Matt, did you have another one? I'm going to try and do this again for show the slideshow, but if it doesn't work, hey, it worked that time. What do we got?
So internet being down, is it possible to include links to Google Slides so that students can access TCI assignments? So I can kind of address that one real quick.
Good.
So our slideshows are actually built on they're not PowerPoints, even though they look like PowerPoints, they're not Microsoft. So they're actually web-based. So you would not be able to share the slides with students if they don't have access to the internet. Everybody needs access to the internet to get the slides. So I'm not sure if that's the question, what you mean. Um, so as far as assigning assignments to TCI, you actually assign that's separate from the slideshows, right? You assign those, but everything you have to do with TCI, you have to be online. It is a web-based program. So you can't log into TCI and make an assignment if you don't have access to the internet. There's just no way to get on. It'd be like trying to access your Gmail without the internet. Can't do it. I think if that's not what your question was, type it in with a little bit more details. And oh, he says like if I create a slide, I can make a link to get to the assignment with the internet. Yes, well, you sort of can. Well, go to that. Can you? I can
I
show
think
you.
so.
There's a trick to it, but they still need the internet. Like right there, like if you had your
That's not.
slide up, you can copy the URL and give it to a student. The only way they would be able to open it is if they had access to the internet and is if they had access to that program. For example, let's say you don't have a student license and I give you a link to something from my license. It won't let you open the link unless you had a student license, if that makes sense. Hopefully that makes sense.
If you put these documents, if you copy it and put it into Google Drive, they can access them without the internet because Google Drive has that feature where you can click whatever the button is to access it. And you can put the text in there. I mean, you could do all of that, but the slide presentation, you're not going to be able to run that without the internet. And so, folks, I'm gonna try to buzz through this. Let's see if it'll work this time, just the way it worked the last time. Okay, slideshow, it's out of the way. Oh, good, it worked. Okay. So we went over this. This makes a skill builder. There's that teaching strategies toolkit. If you didn't get that yet, first of all, that's money. That has so much in it to help make one a better teacher. And I've taught 35 years and I'm still trying to be a better teacher. And I hope that's true for all of you as well. I think it is, or you wouldn't have given up a summer day to be here for this, which I love. Where did I go? I am down there. I don't want to be on that. So we've been doing questions all along. So if you have another one, you'll throw it in. But I have to make sure I cover these things because it's the last time to be able to do this. If you want to put in the chat what you thought about today, I don't, the question mark, I guess, would be the most negative one, but I hope it won't be. But if you have more questions on that skill builder, that's going to be answered in that little toolkit for you. Matt, did you have to say something else?
No, I just got ready because, we're kind of at the end and I just wanted to make both of us available if people do
Sure.
have follow-up questions. Typically, when we get to the last session of the day, usually there's a lot of people that stay on and they're very shy. And then once we end, then the Q&A lights up like wildfire. So I'm ready for it to happen.
Okay, well, if you didn't get in there for the $100 gift card, get in there. Somebody's got to win it, and it might as well be you. And say bye to the alpaca. He's got a name. I don't know what the name is. We just really want to thank you. We got a little survey up here. We'd love it if you take. I think that survey gets you swag. Don't quote me, but I'm pretty sure this little TCI playing card and dice set here, which you can use in a lot of different lessons, is there. You'll get your proof that you were here if that helps you with your professional development hours that you may need. And folks, we don't want you to go flounder anywhere. There are 50 different ways to get a hold of us. Get a hold of us because we want you to be successful in your classroom more this year than any other year you've been in the classroom. So if you have everything you need, I don't even think there's another one. I think that's my last slide. Yep. If you have everything you need, then you are certainly free to go. And thanks for spending part of your summer with TCI. We hope you spend your entire next school year with us.